Hey, friends, welcome back to yet another episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, where I'm your host, Crander Q, aka my real name. And we always talk about Randy here because he has the highest views. You know, guys, I'm getting kind of sick of talking about him. We have Norm here. I'm hoping Norm could break this record. Randy, I love you, but we got to get some new faces on here. He's got the highest views. We're sick of talking about him. Norm, how you doing today?
Super fantastic. And yourself?
Oh, it's been a beautiful morning. The cats have been keeping me awake all night. So if I'm a little off today, it's because of them. So I know we've been chatting for a while, trying to lock this down, mostly on my part for forgetting, but I'm so glad you're here. Let's jump into those first wrestling memories of yours.
Well, it's as long as I can remember. My dad was hardworking, and that's what he watched on Sunday morning, Saturday morning, and so That's what I watched. Back in the day when you watched what your parents watched.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was NASCAR for me, but wasn't a huge fan of NASCAR. But
it started off at AWA. I live in Minnesota. I don't know where this is aired, but I think you're in Superior, right?
Yep, Superior, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm in Minnesota, so we used to go to the, AWA at the Met Center and the Civic Center and the Metrodome and some live events and stuff like that. Wrestlers, Crusher and Jerry Blackwell and Baron Von Raschke, who is from my hometown, Hastings.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, you guys were spoiled with AWA for sure. I mean, you mentioned Baron. You had a young Kurt Hennig, his dad, the Axe, Gagne himself, before they were the Killer Bees. Trying to think of his name off the top of my head. But,
B. Brian Blair and Jumpin' Jim Brunzell.
Yep. Just amazing talent coming out of this area. Ric Flair. I mean, the list is extraordinary. Yep. I mean, you were definitely lucky to have such a star-studded cast for AWA, and it's a shame that Vern couldn't really evolve at that time. Because he could have competed with WWF, WWE now, but yeah, definitely. Andre was there back in the day. I mean, that is an all-star cast. Yep.
There's big Scott Stud, Big John Stud.
Yeah,
Big John Stud.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, just unbelievable talent down there. Was there anybody that stood out to you as a favorite when you would watch with your dad?
Well, I liked Crusher and the Von Air God. I was thinking of their Von Raschke Mad Dog, Vachon's.
Okay, yep. Okay. Yeah. My grandpa used to like those guys, so
and Billy Robinson, and Brad Rangans. I'm all over the board. I like the high flying. I like the mat wrestling too, but I like to be entertained.
Yep. Yeah, I know my grandpa, my mom used to always mention how he would be shadow boxing with the TV when the Vachons were on. We used to watch the old pay-per-views here and there with my uncle, but I just remember he gave me the videotape to take back because my grandpa had to work that night, and he's like, "Oh, you could bet your grandpa a quarter every match that you would pick the winner." And I never did it, but I thought it would be kind of fun because I had already seen it the night before. So
nice.
Yeah, my grandpa let me watch it, but grandma was not a fan of it, so I usually had to hide in the spare bedroom that they had and just kind of flip between channels so that way grandma wouldn't catch me. So
that's the only thing my dad really watched was wrestling and westerns. So that's the only time my dad got the TV. And my dad was older than most. He was 60 when I was born.
Oh, okay.
So, but he worked up until in 75. He recycled back in the day when you could probably make a living on it. I don't know, but
okay.
So that's what he did. He recycled. He worked out in our garage,
Mm-hmm.
And so the only time he came in, he's from a farm family, so Sundays was, their day to rest, or if you didn't have chores, so he didn't do much on Sundays except watch wrestling and the house, around the house stuff,
Yep. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with westerns. That's one of my favorite genres a little bit. I just wish there was more. There's not too many now. It's more the Marvel has taken over the westerns. But as you got older, I mean, you were around during those times. What was it like to see, it kind of transitioning into WWF? Did you continue to watch, or did you fall out of it for a little bit?
No, I've always watched it. And, back in the day, they had territories.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried to catch the other territories, the CA too. Like back before WCW was called World Class.
Okay.
And then, and there was a Texas one with the Von Erichs.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know how, yeah, there's and I think they played at the Thunderdome all the time.
Okay.
But so they would, I don't know how I'd get to watch it. I don't know if it was on because it was before a lot of cable and stuff,
Right.
But when I worked or whatever, did lawns, I'd buy those magazines, the wrestling magazines, and I'd read up on the other federations too. I was always interested in not just local or, what I could see, but what other people couldn't, because I just like the whole,
Yeah.
I know there's more than what you see,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird because all of a sudden it was just WWE or WWF back in the day.
Yep.
After AWA kind of went out, it was just WWF, and there wasn't really a competition or other wrestlings except the little ones. I mean, I don't know how long ROH or Ring of Honor has been around, but I think WCW came before Ring of Honor, and WCW was the only, I would say, competition that WWF had.
Yep.
And so that's all you could watch, unless you searched it out,
Yeah. And it's funny that, I always say on here, kids today have it so lucky. One, they have, a TV basically in their hand at all times, social media. But like you mentioned, I remember going to Kmart and stuff and sneaking off to stand in the magazine aisle because, I had found something that I liked. And each week I would try to see the magazines to see who the top 10 were. And, Hulk Hogan was plastered everywhere. And it's, I feel like kids today don't appreciate having to hunt it down. Like VHS tape, we always mention how we went to the store to get our, pay-per-views on VHS because we may have missed it or we wanted to rewatch that pay-per-view with our friends. So,
or you had somebody tape it for you.
Oh, that too. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, no, I would do that. I mean,
I don't think they can still come after us this long. But
okay, good. But I had a buddy that would do it or whatever, or I would buy it. But for a while there, I was buying it and then have people a WrestleMania party and charge $5, and everybody, I'd have snacks and it'd be like a Super Bowl, and they call it Wrestling Super Bowl, right?
Yep. Yeah, I remember when I first got back into it about 2008. My buddy, he invited me over to WrestleMania, and I'm just like, I don't know half the people on this card. I recognized Rey Mysterio. I believe that was when Triple H was feuding with Randy Orton when he was doing the Viper, and I just fell in love with Randy Orton. Just the way he looked, his mannerisms, and he just looked like a killer. And I just remember going, that dude is a severe mental case and a total badass, and I love him. So,
it was a whole different time, when they focused a lot on the battles, or the feuds, we'll call it.
Yep. And some of those feuds, I mean, would go on, from territory to territory back in your day.
Right.
Flair following, different promotions all over and stuff. So,
they would have like, they would defend their territory's championship against some of our best or whatever. And sometimes they would win, I think, and I didn't follow a lot of it, but I did watch Baron von Raschke's. They have an independent film, and it was somebody actually from Texas who gave him the claw that he used to wrestle the Von Erichs all the time. And at the time, Von Raschke didn't really have a move. And so he's like, hey, put your hand on my head instead of like the stomach, where the Iron Claw was more of a stomach thing.
Okay.
And so he started doing the head claw, basically.
Very nice.
Yeah,
he's one of the first pro wrestlers I ever met that had been on TV. Was him back when I was a kid. So he did that claw thing to my head, and I was just like, what is happening? He's touching me.
His hand is still huge. I'm a big guy. I'm 6. Well, okay, I'm 5'11". I used to be 6 feet. As you get older, but and I'm over 200 pounds. Close to 3, and his hand's still big. I mean, to me, I seen him a few months ago, and it's like, dang, his hand. And I got big hands, and his hands are bigger than mine still. Or So he covered a face,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing him at a local show. I opened the door for him, told my little story, kind of like I told you, and he just got a laugh out of it. It was just like kind of cool to see him still showing up here and there, almost 30-some years later. And I see he's doing another appearance very soon at the wrestling show there. Good to see him still getting out there doing. I know he was on AEW, and that was pretty cool.
And they had him involved and stuff, which was kind of
Yeah, definitely cool. With that being said, what was it like, kind of seeing like stars from AEW kind of going to WWF? Now, was it weird to you to see them under different character names? Because I'm sure like a few of them got like the garbage man gimmick, or the cheerleaders, or the not necessarily cheerleaders, but
the Midnight Rockers. It was the Rockers.
Mm-hmm.
Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, when they first came up, it was the Midnight Rockers.
Okay.
And then they changed it in the AWA. They're the Midnight Rockers, and then I think they just became the Rockers in the WWE.
Okay.
And then like Scott Hall was the biggest one for me, because he always went by Scott Hall. But in the AWA, if you look at pictures, he had like a perm, and I call it a porn mustache, but I don't know if that's allowed. So the big thick mustache.
Yeah.
Yep. But the 70s porn mustache, and he's like, wow, I couldn't believe that Razor Ramon was the same guy. I had to look it up, because some people might have the same name but different guy. If I get into it, I know a independent wrestler that his real name is somebody else's professional name, so he had to figure out a whole total gimmick and name for himself, because somebody else already had his real name, and it was a fake name for this other guy, But so it was kind of weird, And then like I like the back stories of stuff more than I like watching it, but I was my dad was always honest. He's like, he never these guys will go and drink afterwards, and everybody else, they're like, but some, like in AWA, they made sure that the good guys usually hung out with the good guys, and the bad guys, even after stuff, they wanted them, back in the day, it was like, they were characters, and you played that character even out in public. Nowadays it's all more fan based, and they want everybody to be, it's a character, but here, I'll sign stuff or whatever,
Yep.
Which is, I think, is great nowadays, because it's more, but back then it was more of, it's like, this is what we want to portray,
Yeah, and it is kind of a buzzkill sometimes, though. Like you said, you see them now hanging out all together. It's like when you have Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch having their major feud, but then, that same night, Ronda's posting a picture with Becky Lynch, backstage where they're playing cards, or, hanging out. It's just like you're technically supposed to hate each other, Wait till after the feud to post these type pictures, But that's just me. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely a
well,
little
to
bit
me, it's a
more.
movie. Actors hang out after their movies. They can hate
Yep.
each other in the movie, and they can hang out. So to me, wrestling is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a character, and it just goes to show more people that it is. But I don't like the term fake wrestling.
Yeah, we get that a lot for sure. Yep.
And it's one of my really pet peeves is because talk to about people that have lost their life or can't move now, or draws, who's paralyzed.
Yep.
Tell them how fake it is. Is it set up and rehearsed? Well, to an extent, what I mean. I mean, the outcome, and
Yep.
During the match happens the way it happens, and how you get to that outcome is pretty much open, I believe. I mean, I don't know all the back things, but so it's to me, it's a live action movie. It's going to a play every night. But they only get one take.
Yes.
You can't practice until you get it right.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, how much criticism it gets because it is that. But yet, when the flying dragon comes down and, we go back to, the 1800s and stuff, and there's, ogres and giants, it's like, oh, that's okay. But as soon as the guy, pretends to have a little match in the ring, everybody loses their mind. So.
Yeah, they're athletes, straight out. And then some of them don't look like athletes, I watched one of your podcasts and you guys talked about Otis.
Don't disrespect Otis.
No, I was just saying he don't look like an athlete, but to do what he does, he has to be an athlete. You have to be in some kind of mental and physical to do what they do.
Yeah.
No matter what your body looks like, Mankind, Mick Foley, he was never in the best of shape, but he's one of my favorites of all time.
Okay.
Because of that hardcore kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so and they know their limits, and sometimes maybe might push their limits to show that they can't do the Rey Mysterio kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and I know like one thing that you see in a lot of wrestling matches is where they do that clothesline and the guy pops back up, knocks him down again, pops back up, does it again. Then that's repeated 3 to 4 times. There's no way in hell that I could get off the ground in less than a second, take a clothesline, pop back up after falling on, a piece of wood that's about this thick, solid,
right,
with barely any cushion, and not make a sound, and wimp and whine the whole time getting up. I mean, like you said, Otis may not look like an athlete, but he can definitely do that caterpillar with ease. He can lift probably a house. The dude works out every single day. I mean, he's constantly eating. I mean, that's the body that I strive for. But yeah, if I saw him
except the no neck thing, he's in good shape except the no neck thing. I don't know.
Yep.
It's head on shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked a lot of those bigger guys that can do things like like Caterpillar. One of my other ones, I think he also from the cities here was Van Vader, the moonsault he used to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like for a big guy, to do a moonsault, to me is impressive.
Yeah. 300 pounds, springing yourself off like that, I can barely roll out of bed.
Right. And so but that was one of my. It's like I used to I watch Independence a lot, and I think that's where we met. We met at an independent show.
Yep. MAW, I believe. Yep.
Grand Slam 3, if I can pop that in, but
mm-hmm.
it was 3 or 4. I don't know, 4, right? Whatever. The last one was.
Yeah, they're doing so many, I can barely keep track. So, yep.
But yeah. So, and I actually had the pleasure, and I still am friends with a popular independent wrestler, and his famous line was, why do you bleed all the time? He goes, because I don't do a moonsault. And that was Horace the Psychopath. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, yep. I never got a picture with him. He never was out when I'd be at shows. Yep.
But he's from Hastings here, and it's a long story, but we became friends, and we used to hang out. And I used to go to shows with him all the time. I drove so he could have fun. So I drove with him, or I was his driver for a little bit. So you can worry about his match. You didn't have to worry about driving. So I drove him around and stuff, and we went to different shows together. And that was one of my best times of my life, because you get to hang out with a lot of the guys afterwards, and you get to meet people. Pete, the late Pete Hughes. I hung out with him a couple times at the bar and stuff, and he was a great guy.
I always say, like, I'm an indie stance here. I feel like it's more personable. I feel like it's more fun. Just because you get to interact with the wrestlers a little bit more. Like you said, you became friends with Horace, got to drive him around. I'm sure none of the wrestlers would like me to drive because of my driving record at my job. I have put the mower in the ditch. I've gotten it stuck. I've gotten the Bobcat stuck. I am just, if they ever ask me for a ride, I'll be like, I will not drive you, but I will help you find a ride. So Leroy from 13 Cards, him and Zach got to give Jerry the King Lawler a ride, I believe, back to his hotel or airport. And they were over the moon just sitting there, chatting with him. And it was snowing, and I was like, man, I am glad I did not have that responsibility to drive anyone in a snowstorm, let alone a legend, So
my nephew got to
the highway, and I would never been asked back. So
my nephew got to drive Too Cold Scorpio to the airport.
You did
for the MAW a couple years ago.
Oh, okay, very nice.
Which my nephew actually getting into the wrestling and stuff. I'm also trained to be a wrestler.
Okay.
My nephew's Kenny Defiance.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. You met him there at that show too, I think.
Yep, and I've been trying to lock something down with him for a while. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but since I've been doing these vendor tables, I've just been getting flooded with people coming in. I'm also doing the collectible show, and I'm reaching out to people, so it's just been A, a little overwhelming, and B, then I forget that I've talked to said people. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to get Ken on here. You know why? For sure, would be a fun one now that he's the U.S. champion. So,
I don't know if you can read that, but that's what that says. Yeah, you know why? So, I got a Defiant shirt on.
Very nice. Yeah, when I did that first vendor table, he came over with, just a million different things with his stuff on it. We were handing it out left and right. I know when I started to run low on stickers, I was kind of using his stickers as a backup to kind of, get people more over to the table. So, great guy.
Yeah, and he got decided a little late to do it, in his life, but I think he's doing great. Yeah, no, yeah, like you mentioned, he's got his first title now, so that's it's surreal because we used to wrestle in the backyard, but I wasn't these backyard wrestlers that would do stupid shit like jump off the roof or stupid stuff. All right. We would try to make it as real as we could. And that's why I like I would study the guys on the TV, and I would try to be safe and listen to interviews. Taz once said, no matter if he falls on the ice, if he falls in a store, he's going to fall on his shoulders. And so I started practicing kind of that myself and showing my nephew and people we'd wrestle around with, hey, land on your, when I wrestle my kids, you don't fall like this, so you don't get hurt. Things happen, but you still, you do it safe, not stupid.
Yep. And I think one of them did say too, he's like, if I ever slip in the grocery store, I'm walking out of that place, with $1 million lawsuit. but I'm gonna be okay. Like yeah,
that
And I
might have
always,
been Taz too. I don't know, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he, because he's like, I'm gonna follow this. This is the way it takes you a while to train your body not to put your arms down first, or
Yep.
your hands. I mean, I still do that myself. But to when I'm fighting or wrestling, playing around when I used to, that I always had them. I fell on my shoulder, or upper back or upper shoulders, you want to call it, or I don't want to say shoulders because people are gonna take it the wrong way, but
Yeah.
I
Me
know
and
what
my
I mean.
brother, yeah. We used to wrestle a little bit, and then we have this window at one of the houses we lived at, and this doesn't pertain to wrestling. I just want to throw it out there for the internet to hear. We probably broke that window 9 to 10 times, throwing stuff around, wrestling, and yeah, that just brought back a core memory of me with my brother wrestling and then breaking that damn window. So if my brother ever listens to one of my episodes, he'll hear me talk about it. But yeah.
Kenny threw me through a window one time where my brother had to break the glass around my head so I didn't get cut.
Oh, geez.
Because it's another thing where you don't usually get cut going in; it's coming out.
Yeah.
So, and my brother's like, "Stop!" And he broke the glass around me so I didn't cut myself. And
Well,
yeah, we've done it. yeah. Well, sometimes no. But yeah, we broke many windows, put many holes in walls. My sister used to get so mad at us because his knee or something elbow would go through one, those cheap apartment walls, and he'd have to fix it before she moved out.
And so, right after you guys broke all those windows, you wrote the theme song for Stone Cold, I bet, too, right?
Yeah.
Stupid joke. I'm sorry. I thought it was.
They steal my stuff. They stole that.
Yeah. You just for the royalties, I guess. So.
Yeah.
So nowadays, you mentioned that you kind of, you like the indies. Is there anybody besides Ken that you're a real big fan on the indies?
Oh, besides Ken? No. This is gonna sound weird.
He's got a match coming up, so.
Yeah. And I followed Leonard for a long time too, and I was with with Horace. When I hung out with Horace, I met Leonard before, so it's kind of weird seeing him now again, and helping my nephew a lot, or helping Ken, and I guess he's always been like that way. He'll help you out as much as he can, and so that's great that they still have people out there. But Mitch Paradise, I like. The system actually is growing on me a little bit.
The system.
Yeah, I used to say, down with the system. But MAW, where I watch a lot more. So I followed before MAW came around. Eli, the owner of that, had another promotion called Neo Pro.
Oh, okay.
And this started out actually in Hastings, and we went to it all the time. And I like the indies. You mentioned this at one of your shows I watched too. Is watching them grow, like Ken Anderson or Ken Kennedy. Yeah, I watched him when he was Kamikaze Ken Anderson, and if it's for him to change into the WWE, to me it's awesome. It's great. It's like I knew him. I knew him before he was popular. Austin Aries is another one. ODB is another one. That came out of this area, and it's unique to watch them, and I think that's cool to cool for for a generation to know that they doesn't wake up one day and become overnight successes.
Yeah,
you're like Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson, whoever you want to call him, the American Dragon. He's like, I've been in this, for 15 years. People are like, well, he has been in WWE. No, but he wrestled, independence for a long time before he was even recognized, Yep.
I mean, look at Seth Rollins as Tyler Black coming out of Iowa.
Yep.
I mean, he was kind of up this way, with those first wrestling events, wrestling there at First Avenue, before the big time. I'm trying to think who else. Top Flight. We always mention Top Flight here. We love Top Flight.
Adam Pearce. I don't know if you knew that. He was a wrestler from Minnesota.
Pearce. Yeah. Yep. Um,
and I don't think he ever wrestled for the WWE. I think he's always had a backstage thing.
yeah, and he gets beat up here and there, but yeah, yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's just recently. And before it was, he was just backstage, and so a lot of people don't know that he was a professional wrestler,
Yep. Yeah, it's cool to see them too. Like, I mean, people say, "Oh, everybody does it," but it's cool when they get that opportunity to go on AEW Dark or Darren Corbin, a sponsor here at Friends and Squared Circle, out there helping Kurt Angle and Jerry the King Lawler, doing security. Devon Monroe, just getting totally wrecked with a kendo stick. It's an opportunity for them to say, hey, I got a taste of it. It's gonna make me more hungry, and I want to keep doing it. Downtown Petey Brown getting his ass whipped by Roman Reigns. Shout out. But it's cool to see those guys and gals, and
the system. I think was on AEW. There's been a couple.
Yep, the system. Yep.
Yeah, the system. I think.
Then, Rennie D. I'm a huge Rennie D fan because he's from my original hometown of Eau Claire.
Okay.
And
he just recently came back, right?
Yep. He's just a complete asshole, but I love it. He calls himself the cartoon deleter.
Okay.
And yep, Rennie D.
Because he was in a tag team back in a while back, or when he first wrestled, and that's how I knew him. And I think they were the Untouchables or something. I think.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I don't remember his tag team partner
too. So, yeah.
What's that?
He did the Pencil podcast. That's kind of when I met him.
Okay.
At a Heavy on Wrestling show, and my buddy's like, "Yo, that's Rennie D. Let's go say hi." And I literally listened to the next episode he dropped. He's like, "Yeah, it was pretty cool being at the Heavy on Wrestling show, Duluth, Minnesota." And two guys came over and started talking to me. I was like, "Hey, that was me," So, and then fast forward, 5-7 years later, I'm bumping into him again, finally getting, to say hi to him at the independent shows. And, I got an 8x10 signed by him, but I wasn't paying attention. My paint marker was too wet when I put the photo away, so it got smeared. So I'll have to redo that one. But, Rennie D, he's doing great things in other ways, which is cool, is like he's got his Fit Butters. He's, making his brand. He's doing the YouTube channel, and it's not necessarily just wrestling that he's doing and succeeding, but he's succeeding in life, and that's always fun to see, is because people that you're rooting for and cheering for, seeing them grow, is just phenomenal. Same with
Brian Sager's got to be one of Brian Sager's got to be one of those stories for me. I watched him when he was Hollywood Brian Sager. He was part owner of a WXW.
Okay.
A while back, and then all of a sudden, when Eli came back out with NWA or MAW, Brian Sager is a main part of that. So I was lucky enough to work with both of them back in the day. My nephew Ken, who's a wrestler now, he was in a band, and I managed that band for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So we played at a couple of their shows, so I got to know Eli back then and Brian. So it's not nice to to see them again and work with them again, or and see how much they've grown in the years.
Yeah, I met Brian a few times now, and we've talked offline about him coming on as well. And I'm sure he just thought I was just a doofus, because every time I would see him, I'd be like, "Hey, how's the system doing?" Because it's me just being a little shit stir, pot stir and stuff, but just pushing those little buttons sometimes, because I know where they're going storyline with it. But it was always fun to mess with him a little bit, and I'm glad he agreed to eventually come on. But I always like giving him a hard time when I see him now. So
yeah, I like that I got to see him back in the day. A lot of people didn't get to see him, knew that he was a wrestler. And then I saw him when he wrestled, and then to see I was there when he made his return to fight the system. And so it was cool, and they had, shirts, Hollywood Forever or something like that. It was cool that they made a big deal of it, because he deserved it. It was like, I'm glad that they did that for him. I got an autographed picture with them and stuff, or
yeah, it's nice to see him, he's out there grinding every day. He's, I'm a big movie guy, so he's always talking about movies, and
Yeah.
he's putting in the work at the gym. I'm slowly getting back in there myself, and just kind of, not saying I'm going to be Otis, Randy, if you're listening, but it's nice to see people grinding, like I'm grinding for this. Other people
And
are
I think he's
grinding
a
for their
teacher or a
goals.
professor too.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a
Gotcha.
professor of some kind for a college,
Very
a local college. So to me, for that, and to be what he does on the side, and like you said, he's always grinding. He's always doing something. I like his. I don't remember what he calls his movie real things, but yeah, I read those all the time too.
Yep. Yeah. Well, before we get you out of here, I want to extend to have you come back on. I know we kept going down different rabbit holes. You got a lot of history I want to keep tapping into. You mentioned how your nephew's a wrestler, how you worked with these guys. We definitely got to get you back on. Is there anything else you kind of want to plug before we get you out of here?
Well, you can follow Kenny Defiance.
Okay, we'll make sure we put that up. Yep.
I think it's just a Facebook page, but it's Kenny Defiance. Follow him. Or any local guy you prefer. I promote any local wrestling or independent wrestling, because you never know when you're going to promote the next new star.
Exactly. You don't know who's coming through. I always get a picture with everybody. So
it's in my history, I've seen a lot of them go. We talked. That I've seen a lot of them coming, and I like Ken Anderson. My nephew went to that school and was trained by Ken Anderson. So it's just cool that he came back and is doing something to help other people. And people say, "Oh, you get paid for it." Yeah, but you don't have to. You don't have to share that knowledge if you don't wanna.
Yep.
If you work for a company, you get paid for your knowledge, right? So you might as well get paid for your knowledge, and they're doing it right, instead of, half, not doing it the right way,
Yep. And it just kind of solidifies your, your passion for it again, leaves a legacy for you. I always like to think when I'm gone, what will I be remembered for? And it's definitely going to be my beard. That's probably what it's going to be. But Ken's a great guy. Like I said, off camera, we won't get into it. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, but wrestling is thriving everywhere, from my hometown to Minneapolis to up here. I mean, we got more Heavy on Wrestling coming. We got more All Out Pro Wrestling. We got more Showtime. We got more MAW, more First Wrestling, and there's probably 23 other promotions in this neck of the woods that I am not mentioning that are selling out wrestling shows, and it is alive and well in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I couldn't be happier. And ACW all the way over there by Green Bay. You got GL. I always mess up their letters. They're going to kill me if they ever come on here. But I mean, down in southern Wisconsin with Dave Hero and those guys and Cal Hero. I mean, it's just wrestling is alive and well, and this is the best time for me to have a podcast, but also the best time to be a fan, because we are on the upswing, and I couldn't be happier. So,
and I like the guys have been in it for a long time, like Mitch Paradise. He runs his own promotion.
Yep, there's another one. Yep, PCW.
Paradise. Is it Paradise City? I think, or Paradise.
I think Paradise City Wrestling or something. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think that's so cool that that people like that. I'm not saying he's past his prime. I'm just saying that he's getting older, that he's got to leave a legacy, like you said. So if he can start his own brand, that to me, that's the best way to go out,
Yep. And he's got the wrong Corbin working there. He's got to get Darren. Just kidding. I'm only
they're not really related, right? Oh, did I just ruin something?
Oh. So, all right, Norm. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being a friend of the Squirt Circle. We're going to try to play that video package at the end here, and I appreciate you coming on today and joining us. Hey, friends, thanks for tuning in to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, where I'm your host, Crander Q, a.k.a. my real name. Now let's jump into the sponsors, shall we? Make sure to check out ChefKeithFoods.com for all of your salsa needs. the best made fresh since 2019. Flavors include Ragin' Reaper, Hoppin' Habanero, Groovy Garden, and more. Check out that website today. Also, check out our friends over at Superior Creations for all of your custom tumbler needs. They are on Facebook.com/Superior Creations MN. Also, Darren Corbin, give him a like on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, Darren Corbin is on TikTok. And another great way to support Darren is by checking out patreon.com/Darren Corbin, where tiers start at just $1. Last but not least, make sure you give us a like and follow on all of our social medias as well. We want to thank you for being a friend of the Squared Circle. Tune in for more episodes. Also, if you want to get merch for yourself, you can check out friendsofthesquaredcircle.org for all of those needs. And it's your boy, Crander Q. Crander Q out.